Hello and welcome to the next in the series of Efficio podcasts. In these podcasts, we're going to be talking about the issues that the present COVID crisis is throwing up and speaking to some of our experts within our business and clients around issues they're seeing and approaches that they're taking. So my name is Simon Lipscomb. Today is Thursday, the 2nd of April. See in the news today, we continue to see dominated almost entirely by COVID. In the US, they've just announced that there are now 6 million people unemployed, so that's 10 times the previous record. So the impact of this stuff continues to be significant. I guess one of the other opportunities is I don't know I've ever seen the mainstream media or the news report quite as much around issues connected to procurement and supply chain. So as we've discussed in some of our previous podcasts and conversations, perhaps this really is the time for procurement and supply chain professionals to shine. So for today, our spotlight is very much on goods for resale, and I'm delighted to be joined by my colleague Sushank, and just introduce yourself for us.
Hi, Simon. My name is Sushank. I'm a principal in Efficio, 20 years of experience in sourcing procurement, a lot in retail and goods for resale. So interesting times. So surely look forward to the session.
Fantastic. And so I guess the starting point, Sushank, would be what are you seeing in terms of the impact of the Covid-19 crisis on goods for resale and the market more generally?
Yeah, Simon, I think these are extraordinary times that we live in. Goods for resale and retail generally has had a massive disruption. And I think there's three key things that I'm seeing at the moment. A number of the clients and reading through the papers and some of the big corporations as well. Goods for resale is a very complex supply chain. Typically, it involves a lot of components, a lot of services, and it's that array of components and services which creates the bigger risk here. Because even if one component doesn't get to the right place at the right time, the entire product can't be produced. A typical example that I heard yesterday is the COVID testing kit, which involves a lot of substances to go in. And I think the UK government announced yesterday there's one substance, or a few substances that are in short demand. So they're trying to secure the supplies of that, which will help increase the amount of testing. So it just shows the smallest component of that supply chain. If that gets disrupted or it's limited supply, then the entire production line could stop. So that's interesting. And I think the other thing is about just the logistics and the distribution, which is taking a toll. There's quite a lot of panic buying, as you have heard in the media all the time. And what this is causing is a ripple effect in the entire supply chain, because there's not enough stock on the shelves, but there's enough stock in the supply chain. The question is, how do you move that stock into the right place quickly enough? Because some of the farmers were reporting, and they were interviewed earlier this week on BBC, they had enough stock. They had stocks, 6 months worth of stock of certain items lying in their warehouses. The issue is with the lorry drivers in short availability and the pickups from the farms into the distribution channels. That's causing a lot of disruption. But surely, I think those are the key areas. But this GFR is a very wide array of services and products, so it's hard to generalize, but there are certain supply chains which are just about coping up at the moment.
Yeah, in terms of our listeners, if I'm a CPO and under pressure from lots of different parts of the business in this environment around GFR, are there certain things I should be thinking about, or certain kind of approaches or tips that you would recommend people think about?
Yeah, there's a few. I think trying to set up a new supply chain in the middle of disruption, it's almost like changing an engine while you're flying an aircraft. So it's a really hard activity to do. I think what's happening is a lot of adaptation of the core skills from a certain manufacturing perspective. So one of the things that we're seeing quite a lot of is some of the supply capabilities where they resonate, whether they can adjust their capability to feed in the product which is in short supply. I think there's some examples from healthcare perspective that we're seeing. I think there was something on the BBC this morning where a lot of the garment manufacturers around Manchester area are being redeployed and prioritizing the PPE equipment, for example, and they're using some innovative materials to try and address the issue in a really fast fashion. So it's trying to adapt or utilize your supply chain most effectively. I think that's one of the things. I think the other example is the oxygen that's going in. I think we were talking about the NHS Nightingale that's been built in Excel. All the oxygen that's going in is being repurposed from industrial oxygen that was supposed to be for furnaces potentially, and that's getting utilized in the right chain. So I think the key priority at the moment is where things are in critical need and they are in short supply. How can you flex the supply chain, the supply capabilities on driving that easier? And I think the other thing that we're seeing quite a lot of is on the same side from a resources perspective. So people and their availability at the moment, it's really, really scarce. So a lot of the food retail stores, for example, are redeploying staff within their stores where they don't need people behind the fresh meat counter or trying to, in the back store operations. More staff can be deployed on replenishing stock on the store shelves, so that the availability is better and people are able to get what they need, especially in these times. So there's lots going on, lots of good stuff, but there's a lot of lessons learned as well for us to take from this in the long run.
I guess I think it feels probably to everyone in the procurement community at the moment, we're pretty much in the eye of the storm of this stuff at the moment. But do you see any positives coming out of this? Do you think there will be fundamental changes or good things that come out of this period of crisis?
I certainly think. I think some of the roles and remits and priorities are going to change in the C-suite. I think for a CFO and a CEO and a CPO, this is almost a moment to rethink what the future is, especially if you're in a GFR type product and goods for resale. So far, there's not many retailers that I've come across who go down to deep into the supply chain to see who the producers of tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 components are, especially in automotive industry where they probably go to tier 2, but it's harder to go deeper into it. But I think the world that we live in now, with lots of natural, unexpected events happening, it's even more critical. And I think this is probably an extreme example here that we're going through, which is going to stress test a lot of the retailers out there. And if people who take one learning, I think there's going to be almost a reprioritization of certain roles. Maybe there's a chief value officer type role that gets created, or the CPO role gets changed into CVO in the future. You never know. But I think the focus is going to be how much visibility have you got of your supply chain deep down, and what action have you taken to ensure in unprecedented situations like this, you're still able to secure a certain amount of supply. I mean, you can never plan for situations like that, but at least you can learn how robust, how rigorous your supply chains need to be to deal with something like this.
Fantastic. Sushank, thank you so much. That's been really enlightening, really useful. And also, indeed, thank you to everyone for listening. As we said, this is part of a series that we'll be putting out over the coming days and weeks. If you have any views or comments on any of the things Sushank said, feel free to let us know via LinkedIn or email myself or Sushank directly. But yeah, Sushank, thank you so much. And for those listening, thank you. The next category will be coming in due course. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sam.